pregnancy induces milk production.
Okay. And there's always this question that does the size of your breast determine how much milk you produce?
Yeah, it's issue. That's a,
Okay.
people with large breasts, people who have large breast tissues, they usually
Hello.
form. Um, sorry, did the line break? I think a call was coming through
Oh,
the
okay.
line. Yeah. Um, people with large breast tissues.
Hello.
Sorry, am I?
Hello. Sorry. Yes, we can hear you now.
Breast tissues. They use with supporting their babies to breastfeed because it's cumbersome already to try and control the breast and then control the baby, especially if you're a new mom. You may not be very experienced with that, and if you have large breast tissue, it may seem like your breast is going in the way of you breastfeeding. So most of the time, people with large breast tissues might face those challenges, and then because of those challenges, they may not be able to attach their babies effectively. So then it seems like they don't have enough breast milk, or they are, I don't know. People just assume that because you have large breasts you don't produce milk, and it's those who have smaller boobs
Hello.
that are able to produce. But that's not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that takes me to the next question. Issy, some time ago, I remember you talked about the different postures for breastfeeding. Can you share with us the different types and
Definitely.
what, Naadu was saying, people with large breast tissues have challenges. So, what posture will work for them, and then which one is good for those with smaller breast tissue?
Okay. Okay. So I'll just issue a disclaimer. I'm not an expert. Um,
You're expert
but
by
this is all
experience.
this is all based on my research I did when I had my first. So the most popular one is the cradle position, where you're cradling the baby. I hope you can see this way. So the baby is in the look of your arm, and then the baby is feeding on your breast. And then the next one I'll talk about is the football hold, which is one of my favorite positions, especially when baby
Okay.
is really small, where the baby is so small that I don't know if you can see me. The baby can actually fit
Yeah.
like the length of your hand. So the baby's head in your palm, and
Okay.
then their body is like resting on your arm, and you have them to the side. So like it was named after the American football, like how they hold the football. Yes.
Okay.
So you hold the
Okay.
baby that way, and then you hold the breast with the other free hand, and then you breastfeed the baby. So usually I would have like a breastfeeding pillow. I would lean my arm on a breastfeeding pillow, or if I'm sitting in an armchair, I would lean my arm over there for support. And this I found to be the easiest position, especially when baby is a newborn, the first month or two after birth. And it's rather unfortunate that a lot of nurses in Ghana do not know the different positions, because when I had my second, I went guns blazing. And so when I had him, I remember when I was breastfeeding, and then one nurse walked in and she was like, "Why am I holding the baby that way? Why am I holding him and feeding him that way?" And I was like, "That's what's comfortable for me, and he's fine." And like she gave me this look, and she was like, "Well," and then she left. And I was like, that is what I've learned, and that's what is going to work for me, and that's what I'm going to do. Now, the next position I'll talk about is the cross cradle. So with a cradle, I hope you can see me. With a
Yeah.
cradle, you if the baby is in the nook of your arm and is feeding on this the same breast where your head is. I hope this is making sense. With the cross cradle, the baby is not in the nook of your arm, but is in the baby's head is in your palm, and then
Okay.
you have the baby in like on the breast. And
Mm.
then you are using this hand rather where ideally their head would have been to support your breast.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
the football hold works very well, I understand, if you have twins. So you have them in both hands like this and at your side. So one head here, one head there, and then you're breastfeeding. There's also another position that works well with toddlers, or if your baby is like already, let's say, walking or crawling, where they straddle your strap. They take your lap, they straddle your lap, and then so that they're basically sitting on your lap, and then they are feeding on one boob. So that's when they are
Oh,
like much older. They're not babies. Yes, you can actually
yeah.
feed your baby that way. Uh-huh. And then there's also
Okay.
the position where you are lying down, and then you are feeding the baby. That one can be a bit scary if you're a new mom because you are scared you would suffocate your baby, but it's really helpful because it helps you get a lot of rest while baby is feeding. So these are the positions that I know of and I have also tried that have also worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
did you have anything to add on?
Yeah. So yeah. Everything AC said is like in Ghana we don't get the nurses supporting you with the different forms of um positioning when it comes to breastfeeding. Most nurses just stick to the standard, the cradle hold, the normal one that comes easily to everyone. But then there are ones that and especially with the food and the you don't want them to be exerted on still want to breastfeed. So that where in your arm, the baby um, the baby head is in your hand this way, and then the feet are towards your armpits. If it makes sense, like
Yeah.
an a football you've put in your armpits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and another one I like is the lean back position.
Okay.
Apart from sideline position that you mentioned, that you can be lying on your side and breastfeeding your baby, especially if you are a new mom and you're tired, you want to sleep, baby while your baby breastfeeds. This position, the leaning back position, is also good when you are trying to get your baby to latch, especially in the early. So you and your baby are learning how to breastfeed. So then it's easier when you use the lean back position where recline. You recline in a chair or your bed and you prop yourself up a bit with some pillows, and then your baby rests on your bosom, and then baby themselves, they have instincts. They were born naturally with instincts that help them to even know the smell of the milk and everything.
Yeah.
So even with you attaching them actively in their lean back position, they can crawl their way to your nipple and then attach themselves to the breast. And that's more like a biological way of doing things. You do not need, it's like what happens in other species as well. You do not need to teach the baby that the breast is something good and enjoyable. They will just, even if they don't know how to latch very well yet, in that biological process, help them to explore themselves and get attached themselves. So that's also one of my favorites, which we don't see often at our hospitals. Yeah.
some people have also.
To add a little to what
Okay.
Nadu said, the lean back I learned also helps. We know some women have very forceful letdowns where so much milk comes out at a go that the baby could have literally choked. There are some women who have very forceful letdowns, and it's that position also helps with reducing the force of the letdown when they start to breastfeed so that the baby doesn't choke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and I've also heard stories from some women about pain in the nipple when they're breastfeeding. Can you talk a bit about that? AC, you can start.
Experience when I had, at least for both births, the pain from the nipple was in the first few days. With my first, it was the first few weeks because I hadn't learned that I am learning how to breastfeed and my baby is learning how to latch. A bad latch is what leads to painful and sore nipples. When you
Okay.
learn how you should present the breast to the baby and how help the baby latch on, you would then begin to experience pain-free breastfeeding, if I should put it that way. So if every time you are about to put baby to the breast, you are dreading it, it means that you're not doing something right in terms of baby latching, because the baby has to put the entire areola, as much of the areola in their mouth as possible, and not just the nipple. It's when they are sucking on just the nipple that it leads to so much pain.
Can you please tell us what the areola is? I'm sure there are some people
So,
who don't know.
okay. So you have the nipple, which is the part of the breast that is protruding, and then you see there's a very dark circle around it, darker than your actual flesh. That dark circle is the areola.
Okay. Thank you. Nadu, anything else?
Just like AC said, when a baby is not well attached, it's could lead to having nipple pain. And most of the time, babies are not well attached for different. There are varying reasons, but most of the reasons why they're well attached because they don't have a deep enough latch. And there's the goal of putting your baby to the breast is so that you'll be able to remove enough milk. And if you have a deep latch, that means the like AC said, the whole of the areola, or at least part of the areola, is not going into the baby's mouth. That means that the baby is just going to be the nipple, just the nipple, and it's breastfeeding. It's not nipple feeding. So it it should be more than just the nipple that's going in there. Part of the areola, if not all of it, should go into the baby's mouth, and that will be a deeper latch. And once the baby has a deep latch, it shouldn't be painful. I mean, it's the first time. If it's the first time you are breastfeeding in a while, or if it's the first time you are ever breastfeeding, you may feel some tenderness because muscle you are now trying to even though the breast is not a muscle, I'm just using that analogy. It's like a muscle you are now um, when you haven't run for a while and then you decide to go out for a run, you feel the pain all over. It's the tenderness that's normal, but after a while it should cease. It shouldn't persist. And even when the tenderness, it shouldn't be so excruciating that you dread breastfeeding. So that's one of the causes of having painful a painful nipple, a pain in the nipple. And there are other causes too. Sometimes there are oral issues with the baby. I don't know if you've heard of babies with tongue ties or lip ties,
No.
where um so sometimes some babies have their oral tissues are I don't know how to describe it, but it's like they have um in their there's when you raise your tongue, usually there's a thin muscular
Yeah,
thing,
underneath.
yeah, kind of
Okay.
tethered. But for babies like that who have challenges with their tongue tie, it's very thick. So allow their tongue to move about as it should, as
Okay.
flexible as it should. So such babies would, it will seem like they have a very big, usually we say they have big tongues, or they are like, I know, have a way of describing such kids, and we say that those kids will not, they delay in their speech and stuff like that. We say
Okay.
those things. But when kids have those challenges in their, they have those challenges with their oral tissues, either the tongue tie or the lip tie. Some kids have a lip tie. There's a, sometimes there's a muscle that's very thick, and then their lips are kind of, it makes it difficult for them to move their lips and their tongue when they are sucking. That can make breastfeeding very painful. Usually those kids have this clicking sound when they are breastfeeding. You hear this click, click, click. That's that's a sign that they are not well latched, and it could be due to that. But
So the
most of the,
sorry, go on.
so most of the issues with latching have to do with the mother and the baby's their confidence or their knowledge. What should, I think it's more their experience with attaching the baby to the breast. Most of
Okay.
the cases, um, these cases are not as happen, but they are not.
But can they be
Yeah,
corrected?
children have the time like that by maybe special can help the baby do oral type, so they exercise tongue.
The different styles of breastfeeding. Which one would you recommend for those who give birth to babies that tell us?
Okay, so for instance, if you have an older baby, if it's a newborn, then it will be easier to do the normal cross. Easier to do, especially because of the weight of the baby. Then if the baby is
Sized babies.
okay, okay. So with the ideally if the baby was a regular sized baby in the early days, the cross cradle hold where um your baby would be, you would hold your baby, um you'd hold your baby, if this was the right breast that you are breastfeeding the baby with, instead of doing what we are normally used to, where you hold your baby with the left hand and breastfeed, rather hold the baby with the right. So you hold the baby with the same hand on the side that you are breastfeeding, and then you, this other hand, your left hand, so your baby's head will be towards your right breast, and your other opposite hand, that's your left hand, will be free to guide your breast and also support your baby's head. That will be
Okay.
ideal for small babies. But for older babies, because they are heavier, it will be more difficult to hold them with just one hand. This hand with the cross cradle hold. So you, what is normally recommended is the cradle hold, the normal one that we all, because the baby is bigger. That will be more comfortable for you to attach the baby to the breast. And then a very good one too is the uh, the football hold, where you put your baby in your armpits like a clutch, a football. That one is also good for bigger babies. These two are the best for bigger babies.
Okay. All right. This one is to AC first. So we've heard, and I think AC, you've also addressed it in some of your sessions. Diet. You know how mothers and mother-in-laws are: eat this, don't eat that, drink soup, etc. To what extent does diet affect milk production, and what are the different foods that a mother can eat to enhance the milk production?
So from the little that I know, affects breast milk because you need to eat so that your body can produce breast milk. That's the baseline, and drink a lot of fluids because breast milk is water. Is what 97% water, also is made up of a lot of fluid. So you need to
Okay.
drink a lot of fluids. And so I think that from what I've learned, the reason why mothers-in-law, mothers are always bombarding their daughters with soup, left, right, center. The soups are all fluids. But what I
Okay.
came to also learn about in my research is that there are some foods that contain, I think the word is galactogogues. And so they have certain, for want of a better word, nutrients in them that, no, not nutrients, but they tend to stimulate breast milk production, but it doesn't
Okay.
work for all women. It works for some may work for some, others may work for others, and you find what works for you and then you just stick to that. And so personally, what helped me was corn and granules. So and it's one of the
Okay.
popular things that Ghanaian mothers are given here. It's called a is it a brownie and katia? Yes, basically
In
roasted
Chile.
corn and granules in Cherie. So you chew that. And what one friend of mine, she's also a midwife and also expert in breastfeeding, said was that it makes you drink a lot of water. So that's the whole point. But then I personally felt like the combination of maize and granules worked for me because every time I would chew that, I would notice an increase in my breast milk production.
Okay.
Or if I eat kinky and afterwards drink a lot of water and
I
chew granules,
remember the
I
kinky pa. You tormented us.
and once I drink water and I chew granules, like for me, I noticed that. And then there are some lactation products that are on the market that contain some of these things, like I believe brewer's yeast. So I know in some countries like Germany and such, some women actually drink a bit of beer because there's something in it that
Really?
stimulates breast milk. And even on our end of the world, some women say that when they drink palm wine, I think the fresh one, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, but if they drink palm wine, it boosts their breast milk production. But it's like the same, like everybody's body is different. So you may drink. A cousin of mine was like, when she drinks palm nut soup, her breast instantly fill up. I didn't experience that, but I experienced that with granite soup. So I don't know what granite and corn was doing with my body, but that was what worked for me. So it doesn't work for everybody. I remember I tried one. So because of that, there are these breast milk teas and breast milk lactation cookies and lactation cocoa, and they all have some a mix of these ingredients that help to boost breast milk production. I remember there was one I bought from a shop. It didn't taste good. I tried it, and one breast was suddenly very full of milk. And after I pumped it, it was almost as if my breast just dried up. And I
Oh
got
wow.
very happy. And I don't know how some I managed to get it again. And so I stayed clear of that. But I tried another one well for me, and I kept using her product. So once again, not everything works for everyone. Yeah.
So those breast milk producing stimulants, are they natural?
Yes.
Okay.
So brewers yeast, I mean yeast is some organic. I don't remember other some there's one other ingredients and I don't remember the name of it though, but those are typically what they use for those products.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Nadu.
Okay, so it's one of the questions that moms like to ask all the time when they when they're breastfeeding. Moms always want to know what they should eat. And truth is that what you eat when you're breastfeeding is different from what you eat.
Okay.
You probably need a little more calories. You need about 3,000 of yeah, be about 3,000 calories. when you are breastfeeding.
Mm.
So it's more than when you're pregnant.
Okay.
So it shouldn't, when you are pregnant, we tell you eat all leafy greens, eat food,
Mm.
don't restrict your diet, like just eat healthy and
Mm.
drink enough water, stay hydrated.
Mm.
Some people tend drinking water is not bad. You should drink enough water, but you should drink the water. It shouldn't be you shouldn't you shouldn't overhydrate. Overhydration too is not good. And sometimes it's actually affects your milk supply. It may not necessarily increase it, but you
Okay.
should stay hydrated as much as possible because all that water that you are losing is going to be I mean, it's getting into the breast, so it's like a no-brainer that you should drink a lot of water.
Mm.
But then when it comes to our composition of breast milk, guess what? Eating food that what you eat does not really matter when it comes to the core composition of your breast milk. So a
Okay.
woman who stays in Somalia
Mm.
or any war-torn region would produce the same composition of breast milk as someone who is staying somewhere in a developed country. The thing
Mm.
about what AC said is true about what you eat influencing the value, the quality of your breast milk.
Mm.
So there is a quality that what you eat would influence. When I say quality, I mean the composition of some of the vitamins. But when it
Mm.
comes to the proteins and then the carbohydrates and the fat composition is standard. So that's the beauty
Mm.
of breast. Why
Wow.
we mothers who are in war-torn countries or mothers who are in maybe there's a natural disaster going on, we won't tell them that don't breastfeed, give your baby formula. Because then the breast milk composition of someone who is malnourished, even a mother who is malnourished, is enough to give her baby adequate nutrition. So
Wow.
the
That
quality,
is wonderful.
yeah, that's a, that's a miracle of breast milk.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of the breast milk is what might vary. So in terms of the some vitamins like um vitamin vitamin A, yeah, vitamin A, and then some of the vitamin D,
Mm.
vitamin D might vary. So sometimes you are told that if you are breastfeeding your baby, then you should give the baby vitamin D drops because most breastfed babies have low levels of vitamin D. And thankfully, in our part of the world, because of the sun,
Mm.
we tend vitamin D in mother's milk. But even with that, a lot of recommendations even from the WHO, they still say we should supplement breastfed babies. But
Mm.
so these are the little things. So I wouldn't say a mother should stick to a particular staple. I mean, you should eat from all the food groups, especially the nutrient dense ones. Some of the ones,
Mm.
especially like the abenkwan and egg and nuts and yeah, people say oats. Yeah, all those things. Yes, they have. Esif said it as well. She said that the breast milk, sorry, some of these foods they contain the galactogogues.
Mm.
Some of them they contain galactogogues that are known to increase milk supply, but others too they don't necessarily contain galactogogues, but then they have high contents of the minerals and the fats and the other things that you need
Mm.
to enrich your breast milk. So they
Mm.
add value or they add what do you call it? Yeah, they add value to your. So
Mm.
that's what these and you should encourage people have cultural foods that they eat in Ghana. We eat abenkwan. Other places they drink soups, other types of soups and other things. Some people will say take cold food. Some people say don't take hot food. All those things are called, and there's no harm in allowing mothers to do these things because it brings comfort. But as long as it's not harming them, as long as it's not doing anything bad to them, there's nothing wrong with mom taking it. But generally, moms should eat from all food groups. They should stay hydrated, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, and eat from all food groups. Yes, and yes, the brewers yeast, all those fenugreek, and there are a lot of other ones that are go through. They are all herbal based, and they are known. They some form of research has been done to show that they actually increase milk supply. But then again, because we don't have a lot of funding, we generally don't have a lot of funding for breastfeeding research. So they've not gone to the stage of doing extensive clinical trials and things to actually say that this is what causes the milk to increase. But there's yes, there are those the
Okay.
galactose are there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is really educative and enlightening. Let's move on to the baby formulas. So we know that there are some women who have difficulty in producing. I think first of all we should talk about that. What brings about the difficulty in producing the breast milk? Okay.
I have a lot of breast milk because she struggled with getting enough breast milk when she was breastfeeding both my brother and I. So she had to supplement with formula. So it's just, I don't know if I should use the word genetic, or it's just some people's bodies overproduce breast milk. Some people's bodies produce just enough, and some people's bodies produce way too little that is not enough for the baby.
So it's not a health issue or something to be so worried
Illness
about.
can affect illness can affect breast milk supply. So
Okay.
if you have a healthy supply and you get sick, you could actually notice a dip in your supply. If you are stressed, you will notice a dip in your supply. So certain factors, environmental, or I don't know if are they environmental factors or like biological or personal factors affect breast milk production. But generally, there are some women that their bodies just don't produce enough milk, and there are some that overproduce, and there are some that produce just enough or a little above enough.
I've also heard that stress can also affect breast milk production. Is that right?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, do you have anything to add on?
It's like AC said, there's some women experience overproduction, and there are some physiological or biological reasons why some mothers may not be able to breastfeed their babies. For instance, in some situations where a mother has severe anemia, there's a mother has severe anemia. It can trigger certain conditions that would not allow you to produce breast milk. And then also when a mother has type 1 type sorry has gestational diabetes or any other form of diabetes, and has a baby, it can lead to a delay in breast milk production. And gestational diabetes, it's also closely linked with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So mothers may have some challenges they may have some delays in their breast milk production. And yes, there's a lot of other factors, biological factors, like AC mentioned. But then there are other challenges that really don't have to do with the mother's physiology. It's mainly with lactation management, what we call lactation management, where maybe the mother did not get the adequate support that they need to initiate breastfeeding. For instance, they did not know that at the beginning, where you've just had your baby, your milk has not yet come in, but there's colostrum. So the best way to bring it out is to hand express if your baby is not able to latch. and people will not know that they are supposed to start within, at least within 24 hours after delivery. Some people will not, they'll just not do anything because they feel there's no milk coming. They won't, because one is supporting them to hand express, then they wouldn't do anything, and then now it will affect their milk supply later on. And that's purely an issue of lactation management. It has nothing to do with your physiology or anything going on in there, but it has more to do with what happened after you had the baby. Yeah, and then there
Okay.
are other factors that have to do with the baby herself. When I talked about some, I talked about the oral tissues of the baby, and some, yeah, because they are not able to latch well, you are also not um expressing. And then because breastfeeding works on a demand supply basis, at a point you're you are not getting enough milk, and you blame it on, oh, I don't have, I don't make milk. But it's not that you are not making milk, you are not able to bring it out, and the demand is not there, so the supply will just reduce, and then you just move to formula or something, which will make it worse. Yeah, there are a whole range of things that can just prevent a mother from breastfeeding or producing milk.
Okay. One thing before we move to the formula, is it true that the sucking of the baby also stimulates breast milk production?
Naadu answer this.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say this.
Mm.
It causes the let down um reflex, and then that
Mm.
is what I, I don't know. I don't want to say activate the breast milk to start flowing. So
Okay.
once they latch on and then they suck, there's a way they suck, and then the breast milk starts flowing. And
Mm.
then it's steady after a while. And then so you realize that in the beginning they are sucking very quickly, and then
Mm.
when it normalizes, then it's like I don't know if it's a regular
Flow.
suckling. I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. So it's not
it's
that it stimulates the production, but it activates the flow.
Yes. And then the
Okay.
more they breastfeed to empty the breast, so like what Nadu
Mm.
mentioned earlier, demand and supply, the more they
Mm.
empty the breast, it signals the body to make more milk.
Mm.
So in a sense, the sucking, it doesn't produce the breast milk, but
Mm-hmm.
it communicates to the body that make more breast milk, because what was there is finished, because
Okay.
you are removing the milk. So remove more milk to make more milk.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So now to formula feeding. We'll first talk about this advice to do 6 months exclusive. What would you say
Mhm.
about that? They say give the baby only breast milk, no water, nothing. Is it for everybody?
No, it's not for
Any one
everybody.
of you can. Okay.
So just like we mentioned earlier, some women's bodies don't produce enough milk,
Mm.
and so are you going to let your baby go hungry because you're not producing
Mm.
enough milk? No. So you supplement with formula, and so there are those who have way more than enough. So for me, I had more than enough. So I wasn't willing to go with formula because I have enough breast milk,
Mm.
I have enough stored up in the freezer. So formula was not an option for me. With my first, I did exclusive, no water until he turned 6 months. So it was just
Mm.
breast milk throughout. With my second, I had to introduce formula at about, was it 5 months, I think, because I was tired. I had started a new position at work. I was
Okay.
stressed, so now my production had decreased because I wasn't
Mm.
pumping as much when I went to the office, and then I was
Mm.
stressed. So it was
Mm.
affecting my supply. So even though I did have a stash in the freezer, we started giving him one bottle of formula a day just to add up to the breast milk he was getting. And
Mm.
then he sort of, I had one or two issues with my breast, so I had to stop breastfeeding for a bit for my breast to heal. And then he
Mm.
just took that opportunity to wean himself off the breast and just stuck with formula. Yes. So I'll say that um formula, there's nothing wrong with feeding your baby formula. If you're not producing enough and your baby is not getting enough breast milk, feed them formula. That is why formula exists in the first place. That's why somebody came up with formula so that mothers can still feed their babies, even if their bodies are not producing enough milk.
Before you come in, Nadu, so just like how we have elective CS these days, some
Mhm.
mothers also do elective formula feeding, though they can produce breast milk. Is this advisable? Okay.
So yes. So well, the ideal situation is for every baby to be breastfed, and that's what I would recommend, that as much as it is possible, every baby is breastfed and exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months, and then um, the recommendation from the WHO is to breastfeed even after introducing other foods. That's when you start complementary feeding, to breastfeed till baby is up to 2 years. That's if you have the support and everything in place. That's the ideal thing. The ideal thing, because babies still need breast milk till 2 years. Then formula is a good invention. I mean, if there was no formula, there probably wouldn't be anything for people who are not able to breastfeed. But then that isn't the go-to. That is something that's supposed to substitute breast milk. It's a breast milk substitute. So, as much as possible, the best thing that should happen is for us to look at ways that we can support mothers to breastfeed. And if we are not doing that enough, then we shouldn't blame them for relying on formula, because we are not providing what they need to breastfeed. Yes. So yes, I sorry, your question. I think I don't remember the last part of your question. I don't know if I said the right thing I was supposed to say.
Oh yeah, I think that was it. So I was saying that some mothers choose to do formula, though they can produce breast milk, because we've heard. Okay, I've heard that some babies react to the formula, and some have also talked about some potentially not helping them develop as they ought to, in comparison with someone who feeds their child with breast milk. How about
Mm,
that too? Is it a
yes.
myth or there's some truth in it?
When you compare breast milk to formula, you just know that formula is it's not the same. I mean, let's just leave it there. I don't want to say
Okay.
formula area, because we feed our babies with formula. I personally, at a point, had to supplement my baby with formula because I wasn't able to produce milk.
Mm,
But then formula compared to breast milk is really not. It doesn't cut. It doesn't get where breast milk gets. Breast milk is
mm,
like this super food that has all the antibodies, and even protects your baby against some diseases like diabetes type
mm,
2 diabetes later in life, and obesity, and other, even some babies, they are protected against asthma and
mm,
infections. So quality we do not see breast milk, and sorry, with formula. And
mm,
actually formula um formula babies that are more formula fed, sorry, exclusively fed, it's been shown that they have a higher risk of having some of these um, vascular disease risk and other things.
mm,
Then you can't say that a mother should not feed her baby with formula when she doesn't have breast milk. So
mm,
it's a life-saving invention, and it should be used when it is needed.
mm,
But the final decision rests on the mother. Every mother has the right to decide what she feeds her baby, and she should be empowered with the right information, and then she has to decide what is best for her and her baby. And but babies that are giving formula go on. There are also a lot of babies that are giving formula do not experience the fact that you have the risk doesn't mean that you are going to end up having those conditions. It's just good to know so that when you know you have the risk, you do other things that would lower that risk. So yes.
And I guess, sorry, AC, go on.
Was is that the fact that God did it such that when the baby suckles, the enzyme from the baby's mouth some way somehow gets into the mother's body, and it signals the body what it like your breast milk changes with your baby's needs. So if at a certain point in time
Wow.
your baby has a cold, the breast milk you're producing is going to cater to whatever disease that the baby is fighting, whatever. Like your breast milk changes and adapts to suit whatever your baby's needs are at every given time. And I found that very fascinating when I learned about that. And it's all from there. So you may not necessarily get that if you are exclusively breastfeeding, but you are pumping. You know that there are people who are called exclusive pumpers. So they don't put the baby to their breast, they pump everything. And yes, it's still breast milk, but when is also slightly different from when the baby is put to the breast. So then
Yeah.
what is in the baby's mouth goes into the mother's body, and then the body produces the breast milk that the baby needs at every given time.
Wow. Amazing. I see. Okay, so still on the formulas, there are different types, and I've heard stories where some babies have had tummy issues. So how would you know that this one works for my baby, this one doesn't?
Having maybe
Formulas.
okay, so they are sensitive to certain type of formula.
Yeah,
So
do you have to keep
generally
trying?
a baby has a very delicate digestive tract. It's still developing. It's not, even though the baby is a full term baby, even with full term babies, the digestive tract is still developing, and the components of formula are more of cow is mostly made of cow milk. It's Milk has a high composition of the composition of lactose and other things in cow milk is different from animal milk. So the cow milk was made so that cows, when they take it, they would build. You see how cows are built. Human milk is not made that way. The composition of lactose and other things in it are different. So it's a bit harsh for baby. Most formula, baby formula, regular formula, I'm talking about regular baby formula, they are basically the same. Even though they tell you they've added DHA, they've added, like, they try to tweak things and add things to make it similar to breast milk. But then even added things to it, there's no evidence most of the things are absorbed in the same way that the naturally the natural breast milk. Like, they try to put found in breast milk. They say maybe they've added it to milk because the same thing that's in breast milk. But there's not a lot of evidence that your body absorbs those things same way if it was breast milk, because those are different. One is chemical based, one is, so it's quite different. So a baby, most babies, especially newborns, and they're given formula, and compare their diaper output to a baby who is on breast milk, you notice that the baby has the stool is heavier. It's not. I mean, babies who are breastfed, their stool is not. I wouldn't say it's watery. It's not watery. most of the time like it's semi-solid and it's soft. It's soft and it has this mustard yellow color and it doesn't have that odor. It had but formula fed babies have this distinct odor. The the breastfed babies have this sweet odor. It's not really, it's not as pungent, it's right? But it's not as strong as babies that are formula fed, and that should tell you that formula is the composition is different. So it's not strange that most babies in initially would react to it. But when you notice that your baby is very constipated and you may have to change to another formula brand which might be more helpful. And some babies too react to I said that formula mainly has a lot of cow sorry, it's cow, it's made from mainly cow milk, has lactose. So some babies are lactose intolerant or they are yeah, they don't do very well on lactose or they are lactose sensitive. So those babies they may need you to give them special if their mother cannot breastfeed or they don't have access to breast milk, then they may need you to give them soy milk. There's milk that's made for babies that's that's for that, or there's lactose free. Some formula are lactose free, so depending on whether your baby has a reaction to lactose, yeah, there are special formula for that. And can I go ahead? One last thing
Oh yeah.
that I want, um the regular formula that um babies are giving, newborn formula, like the I don't know if it's most of them call their brands number one of that brand given to newborns. It's if your baby is on formula and that's what you are giving, maybe you are not exclusively breastfeeding, or even if you've ended a 6 months exclusive breastfeeding and you want to keep giving your baby milk but then not breastfeed, then you want to give formula, there's no need you moving from um number one to number two, because in the first year your baby still the needs of your baby have not changed from number one. Like the regular formula that you give to your baby at 6 months doesn't need to change to number one. And the WHO recommends that you only give your baby regular formula until 1 year. And then after 1 year, you can give regular cow milk. You don't need to continue giving. So the number one, number two, number it's just a marketing strategy that formula companies use to get you moving from one product to another. But you don't only thing that new a baby has a newborn if they are on formula is the number one. You don't need any one. So it's just a marketing strategy. You say, oh, this is toddler milk, this is follow on. It's just so you keep moving from brand to brand to brand. But WHO guidelines do not recommend that. Yes.
Okay, that's something new. Thank you for sharing. Izzy, do you want to add on?
She said it all.
Okay. All right. Time is running, but we'll try and go through all that we have to discuss. About pumping and storage. Now, you've done extensive work on that. Can you share with us the best way that moms can store their breast milk so that they're still of the quality that's needed for the child?
Okay. So, um, when most of the time when moms worry about continued breastfeeding, they worry most about being able to breastfeed their babies or provide breast milk when they are not around, or someone able to provide the breast milk. So that's where pumping or expressing comes in, and you should be able to store the breast milk well so babies don't get infections. So one of the ways that you can do that is by keeping it in the refrigerator, and um, so freshly expressed breast milk you can keep that outside for up to, I would recommend not more than 2 hours outside, but
Okay.
then it's, and keep it for up to about 4 hours. Yeah. So, and then after the 4 hours, if beyond the 4 hours, let's say you just pumped, and then baby baby has, you gave some to your baby, and then the baby wasn't able to finish everything and probably slept for another 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours. You can't, once you started um bottle feeding your baby, you cannot use that milk after your baby wakes up, because it's introduced germs into the bottle, so you can't do that. You can't keep. And then beyond that, if you want to keep it in the fridge, you can keep it in the fridge, a freshly expressed breast milk. You can keep it in the fridge for up to 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, up to 4 days in the fridge. And then you shouldn't keep it where, the fridge, when you open the fridge, there's door, the um door has compartments where you can put things. You shouldn't put it there, because temperature there is usually higher. You should store it at the back, towards the back of the fridge, where it's more stable. There is more. That's 2 to 6 days. Yes, and be that,
2 to 6 weeks.
no, 2 to 6 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
And then if you store your milk in the freezer, so you are going to work, so you want to store it for when you are not there, someone else to use it. You can keep it in for 3 months
Okay.
in a fridge freezer, the normal fridge freezer. Let's say you have a small fridge and a compartment for that compartment. You can keep it there up to 3 months, and then if the deep freezer, is between 6 to 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah, tropics like are part of the world where we sometimes we are not really sure, with the power cuts too and everything. Patients. Some people say that 6 months is the maximum, but I know that many of us are able to store breast milk for more than 12 months. I'm sure Issy has experience with that as well, so she can give us some of the tips too.
Surely. But before I go to her, you said something that if you start feeding the child with the pumped and breast milk and they don't
Yeah.
finish it and they sleep, you can't continue with the same bottle. What if you put what's left in the fridge and then you take it out when they wake up, maybe warm it and then give it back to them? Does that work? Okay.
No.
Mm.
From CDC on
Yeah.
breast milk storage. Yes, and
Okay.
so when it's freshly pumped and you feed it to them in a feeding bottle and they don't finish it, after 2 hours you have to discard it. It can be very painful to have to discard it, but you have to discard it because while they are feeding, so in the same way that some of the enzymes from their saliva is going into your breast tissue, the same way their saliva is also going into the breasts, into the bottle as they are being bottle fed. And so then as it spits out, what I've learned is that breast milk is the word volatile. So, and I mean, this is a newborn baby. You have to be, it's fresh milk, so treat it as such. So you don't refrigerate milk that you've already fed to a baby that they didn't finish. You leave it to sit out. If in 2 hours they are not up to drink it, you discard it. If you want to store it, like Nadu already mentioned, then right when you're done pumping, store it in the fridge immediately right away than keeping it out waiting for the baby to drink it. Otherwise, you would have to throw it away.
Great. Anything else to add on before we move to? Okay. All right. Now, when it comes to again mothers and in-laws giving advice, what would you tell them, especially when the woman is having challenges? What's the best way for them to support their daughters and daughters-in-law in such situations?
Let Naadu take lead on this.
Okay, so yes, so especially for mothers who have just started work, I know it's challenging, especially if you want to do exclusive breastfeeding, and
Mm,
maybe mom or your mother-in-law is not supportive. You might you might give up because of the pressure, and
mm,
you go back to work might be an opportunity for someone else to feed your baby and not give your baby breast milk, and you can easily use that, oh, the baby didn't like the, because you can't
mm,
explain. So my advice would be that, first of all, I want to thank all mothers and mothers because moms would not be able to even go back without their support.
mm,
And then on that, I would advise that they support the mother's decision, whatever decision the mother makes on the feeding choices. They should
mm,
support them. They shouldn't try not to give formula or any other food without first consulting the mother. That's very
mm,
important. Some moms may be more flexible and may allow you once you tell them, but then they get hurt, or they get upset when you
mm,
go ahead and feed their baby something that they are not they don't really agree to. So
mm,
it would be nice to talk to the moms and tell them before you feed anything. And then also, to support a mother who has just gone back to work,
mm,
you can always encourage her to immediately put her baby to her breast when she comes back from work. Like,
mm,
try and help her to, and also you can also learn how to store the breast milk well, because
mm,
if you don't store the milk that she gives you well, her baby might get sick, and then she might even be discouraged from continuing breastfeeding
mm,
because her baby is not going she's not assured that her baby is going to be giving safe breast milk in her absence.
mm.
Yes, those are some of the things that I thought about come to mind. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is he anything?
I will just echo what Nadu mentioned earlier about empowering your daughter or your daughter-in-law
Mm,
based on her, if her decision is to exclusively breastfeed, not give any water, not give any porridge, then be ready to support your daughter on that. Yes, you've
mm.
had 6 children and you introduce Coco to them at 2 months and they're alive and are married to you. We get that. But if this is what your daughter-in-law, your daughter has decided she wants to do for the child, then be willing and open to support a decision and not make her feel like she doesn't know what she's doing. And the same goes for formula, for the mothers-in-law, the mothers who would try to shame their daughters for feeding their babies formula.
Mm,
Not cool, not supportive. As Jocelyn of Pregnancy Matters like to say, fed is best. So if I've decided I want to, or even combination feed, half formula, half breast milk,
mm,
support her decision so that she also feels, because it's breastfeeding can be a lonely journey.
mm,
Yeah.
The nursing period can be a lonely period where you feel like life is going on without you. You're always at home. You always have a baby chained to you.
mm.
When people are out and about living their lives and you're watching their WhatsApp statuses and they're having fun, and
Yeah.
you are you
Yeah,
are home
tortured.
chained, chained to a baby. They need all nursing mothers need all the support that they can get, because mentally they are going through a lot. So in whatever way
Mm,
that a mother or a sister or a sister-in-law, a mother-in-law can support, please do
mm.
your best to support. and not push back against the mother's decisions.
How about the husbands?
Same goes for the husbands. Another way they can support, so in terms of a nursing mother who is exclusively breastfeeding, fathers can support by lending a helping hand if you have a toddler or you have younger kids, so the mother can focus on feeding the baby. You can also opt to have the mother express so that you do the nighttime feedings. That really helped me when my husband had to force me to get some sleep. So I would express and leave it in the fridge and sleep in another room so that he would do the midnight feedings for the baby. When the mother is breastfeeding, check if she's comfortable, does she need back support, if she's lying down or if she's sitting up, does she need a pillow, does she need a footrest, does she need some snacks, does she need water. Make her as comfortable as possible, support her as much as possible so that she knows that she's not alone, because breastfeeding can be lonely. It
Oh,
can
Charlie.
be a lonely journey, so we need all the support that we can get.
Okay, that's good. And Nadu, what's your take?
Yes, I agree totally. I recently saw, I don't know whether, I think it was on Instagram, someone was talking about how one of the things that discourage her from breastfeeding is the have or even express she was combination feed. She was both expressing, sorry, not combination feeding, she was both expressing breast milk and feeding with the bottle and directly breastfeeding. He said one of the things that discourage her from using the bottle to breastfeed is the having to wash all those bottles and the
Mm,
tiny and everything. Like that's a lot of work for her. But then thankfully sometimes her husband chips in and helps. So that's that dads can also do to support. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's you're so right about that. So in my house, everything that had to do with bottle cleaning was my husband's duty. So he would come home after work and all the bottles have been gathered beautifully, the pump parts and everything gathered beautifully for him to come and wash, and dry out at the end of the day. And that's definitely a very great support because it can be tiring getting all of that done.
great, great. You've said a lot, but if there's any other area that you think you'd like to add on, Izzy, I'll start
I
with you.
just wanted to add that it's one thing I like to say to people. You learn how to breastfeed, your baby is also learning how to feed. So if you're a new mom, or even if maybe you're about to give birth to your second or third, and maybe you didn't have a good experience with your first or your first two, or this is your very fresh experience, read as much as you can about breastfeeding. Watch. I love watching YouTube videos, and so watch as many YouTube videos as you can on other people's experiences on breastfeeding, and that's how I came to learn about the different breastfeeding positions because when I had my first, I was just going through it, and then I think one day I just started to just Google, and then I went onto YouTube and I was watching video after video after video, and then I realized that wow, there's a wealth of information out there that mothers are not being encouraged to seek out. You just assume that breastfeeding is easy. You give birth, you know how to breastfeed. No, you have to learn how to bring the baby to the breast. Have to learn how to get the baby to latch on properly. How to care for cracked nipples and how to everything. So educate yourself about breastfeeding before the time comes, so that you're not lost in the dark. Now we have breastfeeding consultants coming up in Ghana. That's a great,
Okay.
great, great, great thing. I wish I had that when I had my first because I struggled. But the other advice I also wanted to give is that if you know you're going to be going back to work, another thing I like to hammer on, don't wait until it's 2 weeks to resumption that you are scrambling around trying to figure out how you're going to express and have a stash of breast milk. It starts from the beginning. So
Okay.
once you establish a regular flow of your production stabilizes, which is around week 2 or 3 post birth, start pumping. And I always like to encourage people, don't be looking out to see 9 ml. Sometimes when you go, and it can be very I don't know if I say discouraging, like you go online and you see all these videos of a mother who has finished pumping, and in one session she's pumped 9 ounces of milk, and you look at yours and it's 2 ounces or it's an ounce. You're like, what is going on? You also need to remember that if you have a regular supply of milk, then your body is producing what your baby needs at every given time. And you also need to remember the age of your baby, because sometimes I've spoken to mothers where their baby is 3 weeks old and somehow they're expecting to see a whole lot of milk when they pump. And it's no. You need to also read about how many ounces a baby typically would drink at 2 weeks old. It could be an ounce or 2 ounces. So your body is not going to produce more than that. Your body is not going to, unless you are an overproducer, your body is not going to produce 5 ounces of milk at a go. So I like to encourage people that when you are at 2, 3 weeks post birth and you're going to go back to work in 2 or 3 months, you can start pumping. And what helped me in getting a stash was that when I would try to pump maybe like 4 times in a day, in the morning, your body makes the most milk in the morning
Oh,
from like
okay.
dawn-ish all the way to as the day progresses, the quantity reduces. So make the most of the morning pumping and the midnight pumping as hard as it is. So your baby and the priority is for your baby to be full. So your baby is full, your baby's asleep. Give yourself about 30 minutes, drink something, eat something, and then pump for a few minutes, even if it's an ounce, half an ounce, pour it in a bottle, store it in the fridge. If you do that 4 times in a day, and let's say each time you pump only 1 ounce, at the end of the day, you have 4 ounces. Pour it in a breastfeeding storage bag, freeze it. If every day you freeze one pack, at the end of the week, you have 7 packs. And then as you are progressing, your baby is getting older, you are producing more milk. So at a point, maybe you would pump 2 ounces or 3 ounces. And that's how I built what they like to call a stash. So by the time I was going back to work, I had a lot of milk, but it
Okay.
was built over time. And I was very glad that my cousin gave me that advice because she realized her mistake too late. She was about to resume work and then suddenly she was scrambling. And then she was like, don't wait till you are about to resume work before you start pumping and saving. Start, as soon as you can. So those are my two takeaways for any mom on here. If you want to share it with anybody,
That
the
sounds really
pumping,
helpful.
yeah,
Before I
yeah,
go to
it's
Nadu, you
definitely
talked about the cracked nipples, how to treat it. Can you touch on that quickly?
so there are some balms out there that are for they are called, is it nipple creams? I think yes. There are some that are very popular brands like Lancino. You can, if you want very natural ones, you could do shea butter. So before and after, there are some that you have to wipe off before baby breastfeeds, but for most of them you don't have to wipe it off before breastfeed. So it helps to heal your nipple. But also, the one of the best advice is that breast milk contains is liquid gold. It's popularly called liquid gold, and it contains a lot of healing properties. So
Okay.
you could literally, when you're done breastfeeding, squeeze some out and rub it over the
Ah, I
nipple, the
think I've
pad
heard that.
area,
Okay.
and it helps to soothe and heal the cracked nipple. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes, Nadu.
Okay, so the the two things that I want to leave with our listeners is that breastfeeding. I know we always say that breastfeeding is natural, so we expect it to come. It's a learning process, like AC said. So you are learning, your baby is learning. So you should give yourself grace in the beginning. Not everybody gets not every baby is able to latch immediately, and not every mom has the most blissful experience from the beginning. But it's sometimes a learning process. You get better over time. So don't be too startled when you are not seeing results early enough, and get early support when you realize you're not able to you are not doing as well as you expect. Get support if it's um at resources online that you could help. You could reach out to people who are breastfeeding experts or consultants. You could reach out to yeah, there are lots of resources. There are some people who are health professionals that also have that passion at heart. Reach out to help and make sure you have a good support system, because most people plan to breastfeed but then they haven't thought about the support system to help with that. So make sure that the people around you are going to be involved. Your husband, your mother-in-law, or your mom, whoever is going to help you. Make sure that if you are going to be pumping at work, you've already made plans, arrangements for a secluded place, a private space for you to pump. Make sure that you if it's you want to not every health professional or every pediatrician may support your breastfeeding plans.
Style. Okay.
So that no, if you want your baby to be nice, you should formula feed, don't breastfeed. Or if you some people might not even understand why you want to supplement with formula because you are not able, like they will say by all means breastfeed. Maybe that may not be correct for you. So always talk to, even before you have your baby, it's important to start planning ahead. Make a breastfeeding plan. Like you can even write something down about what you want to do when you start breastfeeding. Sorry. So because once you make a plan, you can work towards that. And then secondly, I also want to say that a lot of the time mothers worry about if their baby is getting enough or not, and some mothers stop breastfeeding because they think their baby is not getting enough, but they have not actually proven that their baby is not getting, but because their baby is crying or their baby is maybe their baby is restless, they think that their baby is not getting enough. But there are key ways that you can know if your baby is getting enough or not. One of them is the diaper output. If your baby has between 4 to 6 diapers daily, that's good. That means your baby is getting enough breast milk. They are well hydrated because they are getting enough breast milk. And from at the beginning, newborns up to about 2 weeks, they poop almost every day, and it increases by almost, let's say on day one they poop on day one once, on day two to be twice, on day three. It's not always the case, but at least they have about, by day four they'll be having about four dirty diapers up to about day 10, and then it starts reducing. And it usually happens when babies are exclusively breastfed. So you can tell, some people say that if I'm directly breastfeeding my baby, how do I know if the baby is getting enough? There's nothing to show, but the diaper output is one of the ways. And then also your baby would not be your baby might not have clenched fists after you fed your baby well. Your baby might rest, like they might not, they might even push the bottle or the breast aside when you start to breastfeed. But then the most important thing to tell if your baby is well fed is their weight.
Okay.
Their weight gain. And what people don't know is that breastfed babies gain, like usually the progression of weight gain with breastfed babies is different from formula fed babies. And breastfed babies have usually the WHO. I don't know if most of us have seen that the maternal and child health with the weighing book. Usually they have these graphs in there, and if your baby is doing well, you see that um they don't go too high or too low above the curve that's drawn.
Okay.
So, so there are different curves that are drawn. There are about three different curves, and your baby should not. If your baby is on one of them, he shouldn't go more than 10 points higher or lower than he should. Like he should usually be not too far away from the line that is drawn. So those are standard curves, but some people when they use other caps too, and those ones are more for um bottle bottle fed or formula fed babies. So we should really, and sometimes too the baby's weight gain depends on their genes. If a baby has parents who have big bones, who are big bones, the baby is likely to be heavier than a baby that parents with who is not who are a bit petite. They wouldn't be as big as other babies. So sometimes we tend to compare too much with what other people are doing. But I just feel we should have patience with breastfed babies, and we should be aware that as long as the baby is not losing weight and they are not falling sick and they are breastfed, it's most likely that they are getting up. Yes. Thank you.
Hello, sorry, I'm having a bit of an issue with my earpods. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you so very much. I had a final question, but it's just escaped me. Can you? Is he there?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay, okay. I'm trying to recall what I wanted to say, but yes, I mean we've said a lot, and it's been really educative. Thank you all so much for sharing. I'm yet to get married to have children, and this is really good. I'm going to keep it to my archives, and at the right time, refer to all these and do things right. So, thank you once again, and thank you for all that you're doing for mothers out there through your experience and then through your research. Isi, can you please say a word of prayer for us?
Sure. Lord, we thank you for this meeting. We thank you for what has been shared. We thank you for what we have learned. And we pray that you will carry this word out to any mother out there, any nursing mother out there, any new mother out there who feels alone, who feels like they don't know what they're doing. We pray, Lord, that let this information be a helpful guide to them. And we pray also that you yourself will be a guide to them, that you will give them the knowledge and you give them the wisdom that they need to raise children in the body manner. Father, we thank you for the IMANI show, and we commit it into your hands, Lord, that you would take it and you would use it for your purpose. We will give Abigail the knowledge that she needs, that you give her the anointing and the direction that she needs to take this show to the next level, that all will hear of her when the time comes. Father, we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. I know you said the closing prayer, but I just remember the question. Final one about the breast milk bank. I think it was you, Naadu, I saw who did something on that. But when I heard that some babies can be fed with breast milk from other women, I was like, how safe is that? Is that?
Hmm.
So can you touch briefly on that before we go off?
Yeah. So it's interesting you asked because, yeah, there's been some conversation going on about the possibility of having breast milk banks in Ghana. And
Mm-hmm.
breast milk banks are very important, especially for preterm babies. They are basically a place where they receive milk and they screen it first, and then they kind of process the milk, and then they dispense it with prescription. So you don't just go there for the milk, but the milk will be dispensed. And before the milk, because milk is a product from the body, is like their body, it's a body fluid that there's you can easily transmit certain diseases through breast milk. So they screen it first for diseases like HIV and other things. And then they first of all they find out if the mother is fit to to donate the breast milk by asking certain questions. And then when the breast milk is donated, they screen it, and then they put all the milk together, milk that different people have brought. They put all together. So they don't give one particular mother's milk to someone. They put all together and they mix it up. And then so that that I mentioned that the quality of breast milk might be different for different people, even though the composition is mostly the same. They mix everything up. They pasteurize it. That's they warm it to they heat it a bit to kill the germs and other things. And then and the thing is that when they warm it to it also reduces the there are some active substances in the breast milk, like the antibodies and some proteins and other things. It reduces its it kind of changes them, so they are not as they used to be, but it's still very potent. The breast milk is still has very useful properties, even though some of the properties are lost. So they are very good, especially when you have premature babies. And it's been shown that in countries where they've had milk banks, their prematurity, their infant mortality rate, or the rate at which the newborns die reduces dramatically. So that's why it would be a very good thing for us to have breast milk banks. When people like me and AC and I have excess milk, we can just go and donate and give it to mothers who need the milk. Yeah.
Yeah, and we really need to abide by the regulations so that we
Yeah.
give wholesome milk to the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much. So this has been the IMANI Reveals show. This is where we speak, we are real so that we can live. And today we've talked about breastfeeding, and I want to believe that we've all learned a lot. So next time we have to support somebody, or we find ourselves in a breastfeeding position, so to speak. We've had a child and you have to breastfeed. We have all this knowledge to go by. Thanks a lot for coming, and by God's grace, we'll meet again. So yes, today is the last session for the year 2023. We'll take a break and, God willing, come back on January 8th. It's been a really exciting and interesting ride with all of you. I want to thank all of you for your support, your prayers, your contributions, and yes, much. May God bless you and give you back over and above all that you've given. Let's continue to pray. Remember me as you go on your knees, as AC prayed, that God's will be done where this show is concerned, so that those who need to hear whatever information they need will be able to join and hear and be live the abundant life that Christ has given all of us. So I'll see you, God willing, on January 8th, 2024, as long as Christ tarries. All right. AC and Naadu, thank you once again. Have a good night. Bye.